The first few years of your life are not even in your memory, and that's true for everyone. But if you were neglected or abandoned during that time, it can influence your brain development in ways no one can see by you or anyone. And so you may have grown up blaming yourself, feeling like you're doing something wrong because you have classic signs of trauma during infancy. And one example of where this kind of trauma can begin is in children who are adopted. Now, even when they're adopted by loving parents, there can be an injury to development with a common pattern of symptoms. Things like struggling to know who you are, what your needs and preferences are, and what you actually want in life. Not everybody who's adopted has those, but that is one pattern. And you can be left with, as well, a chronic sense of insecurity, which is totally understandable. When it's coupled with that diminished sense of identity, it can make you susceptible to other people's agendas. Rather than strike out on your own path, you might find it easier to go where you're told, or to mimic the choices of the people, who are in your space or who you depend on. So my letter today is from a woman I'll call Kathy, and she writes, "Good morning. I'm 64 years in age and still feel like I've never reached adulthood or grown up. I've rarely felt deeply, honestly happy my entire life, although I think I pulled off pretending all was normal or okay most of my life. I wasn't abused. Here's the backstory, although for me I will never truly know if I was lied to or given half-truths. I was raised by an older single mom. Her story to me, from the earliest memories, was that I was adopted in 1957. My mom was 46 at the time. It's mom in quotes, her adoptive mom, was 46 at the time. She was a luncheonette manager in a five and dime store in a strip mall. Her account was that a customer of hers found herself pregnant and asked my mom for a loan to get an abortion. My mom, who had no children and was a widow, said, "I won't loan you the money for an abortion, but if you don't want the baby, I will take it and raise it." And that's what happened. Supposedly, I was handed off in a local hotel or motel. Single women in 1957 and over the age of 37 could not adopt. She was 46 years old. I somehow instinctively knew as a young child and throughout my school years that something was off with that story. On top of that, although I was extremely good in school and very active in activities and had friends, I always felt different than everyone else. I was keenly aware that everyone had dads, and I had no explanation for why I did not. My mom, whom I knew loved me but was not affectionate either physically or verbally, was too old and too tired to participate in my life. She was either at work or at home. She provided for me, and I knew she loved me, but still. Fast forward, I grew up a very compliant, obedient child. I was told I already had a full-time job lined up for me before I even graduated from high school. College, no one even talked to me about going to college. At this prearranged full-time office job, I met a 25-year-old man. I was 17. He was married. Once he got divorced, my mom said marry him or never see him again. She found out we had been intimate. I didn't want to, nor was I looking to get married, and I wasn't in love. But guess what? We married. I was never happy. When we went to get a marriage license, they couldn't find anyone with my name and date of birth, but they did find me with a different last name and different parents. I was crying, upset, and asked my mom for the explanation, which I never got. She told me my biological mom was no good and that she didn't know who my dad was. My whole life, I've never felt like I belong, like I'm valued or important. I always take a back seat, and my concerns are never as important as someone else's. I've now been divorced twice. As an only child, I don't typically feel lonely. I can be alone, but I do long for a significant love in my life again. I stumbled on your YouTube videos and can so relate. I've never known what I want to be or wanted to be, or how to be happy. I've turned into an anxious, depressed, scared woman since my last breakup about 7 years ago. I just can't find out who I am, who I was meant to be, and how to have a fulfilling life on my own. I work at a job where I'm a valued employee, but am unhappy. as it's not a job I would have ever wanted. I never learned how to find out what makes me happy and then go after it. I'm just getting older. All I do is work 40 hours, sometimes more, and stay home, afraid of interaction. While my health is still good, I want to learn how to enjoy my life. I never keep friends long term. I don't know why. I've had one best friend in the last 25 years, someone I could tell everything to and never feel judged. And she and I were opposites, go figure. But she died unexpectedly about 12 years ago. I'm scared I will just keep going downhill and never learn how to live a fulfilling life. Of course I have more, but I know this should be short. Oh, please give me some insight. Thank you so much. And that is from Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. I think I can help. All right, let's go through what you told me. So first of all, yes, I wasn't adopted, but I've known people who were, and what you're describing sounds really in line with what it can feel like to have been separated from a birth mom early on. I think your story is really fascinating, the details, and I have a theory about this for what it's worth. So your adoptive mom lied to you, but she was 46 and she worked at a luncheon counter at a Five and Dime, a luncheonette manager at a Five and Dime in 1957 when you were born. And there is something so colorful, really, about that. This is really evocative. It almost seems like you're describing a movie about an amazing, heroic woman who came into the world the hard way. And it's not like other people. So there's that. And in that, you have something in common with me and so many people here, that our homes were not like other people. And your mom was already 46, and she was too old to do the normal mom stuff. And especially if you were born in the 50s, it was common for moms to be quite young then, so they would have been running around with tons of kids and doing things, and I could sure see how as an only child you felt left out of that. You were a good student, you were active in activities, good, and you had friends, but you felt different than everyone else. And I think a lot of us here relate to that, but for different reasons. So you were aware everybody had dads, and you didn't have an explanation for why you didn't. So I'm not sure how old you were when you found out that you were adopted, or that the original story, this thing where you were handed off in a motel room, it sounds plausible, but it's so colorful. It's so cinematic and both sad and promising, that you're a person with a lot of depth, that you're a person who has been through things, that people came through. This character of your mother, the luncheonette manager, who wasn't very affectionate but was solid and provided the upbringing. There's something that appeals to me about your upbringing as beautiful in its way, and has a quality to it that is worth valuing. It's worth valuing. You are not nobody. You're different from the vanilla standard, but I didn't come from that either. But I do know who my dad was. Then what happened here when you got older, this thing where she lined up a job for you before you had graduated from high school. So I was trying to understand, who does that? And I'm just guessing. She's from an earlier generation. I calculated. When was she born? 1912 she was born. So when she was 17, it was 1929. And back then, a girl, I don't know, if she was just trying to project on you what she needed to do, you just get a job. College wasn't what girls did all the time, certainly not when their mom was a luncheonette manager. People would have had to have money, especially to send a girl to college. So I'm not trying to make excuses for the ways that you were neglected, but I just think, I was trying to understand, why was a girl who was good at school, why was she just thrust into this job? And I think that's part of it, is that, and this is not uncommon for adopted people, for adopted kids, is that your sense of identity, I don't know what happens when we're little, but apparently that identity is kind of transferred to us. Natural parents and the feeling that they have about their children, somehow they're transferring something to us where we get a sense of who we are, get a sense of our worth and what we're destined for. Now, God knows, for people who are neglected or abandoned as kids, it doesn't always just happen like that. And we put it together later. That's what we do. We put it together later. Or sometimes we temporarily get it from being part of some scene or something. But later, what everybody's about in this, I'm 59, you're 64. At this stage of life, it's starting to be pretty real. Like, wait a minute, I can't be somebody I'm not anymore. That would be silly. And I'm so proud of you that you're feeling that pain and that absence, and it's compelling you to go forward. After you were compliant, you went along, you did the job, you married the guy, you did what your mom wanted, and your whole life you didn't feel like you belonged, you didn't feel like you were valued or important. And that really sounds like a trauma wound from when you were little. But you know what? You are important, and you do belong, and you're one of us, and you belong here, and we treasure you. And I would just like to invite everybody in the commenting community to please just let Kathy know. Just please communicate to her belongingness, and invite her to come in and be part of this, And if you want to take another step, we have the membership community, which is a place I love, and there's a Facebook group there where people talk to each other, and it's a lot more personal, and there's daily practice calls every day where people can connect. It's even more than YouTube. So you've been divorced twice, you're on your own, you're pretty good at being alone, but you would like to find love again. You're only 64. So here's what I want to encourage you to do. I just, you're free now. You're free now. There's no husband, there's no mom, there's nobody with expectations of what you're supposed to be. So this is how we find out what we really love. We just start to experiment with what we think it might be. And I was given a lot of guidance on this when I was 45. Through people I met through my now husband. And it was kind of radical for me because I think it's not uncommon that we all, the necessity of having to earn money or the necessity of living life in such a way to support kids that, came at a funny time or anything like that. We don't all just live our lives completely self-actualized all the time. We're improvising, we're doing things. But life presents an opportunity right now, and I just see a big field in front of you, is for you to experiment with what you think it might be. And so I don't know you, and you haven't put anything forward yet, but some of the things that people discover at this age are things in the creative arts. It's music, it's painting, it's needlework. Some people do physical things. They start learning to do yoga or Tai Chi, or they take up running even. I still want to get back to that. Not doing it right now, but it's, taking care of your body is a really good thing to do, and it can become a way to connect with other people and to bring joy into your life and start moving things forward. Movement is so important. It's so important to trauma healing and to start, opening things up. Some people get into spiritual pursuits, finally pursuing a faith or going back to an original faith or leaving a faith or learning meditation. The daily practice that we do is both a spiritual and practical practice. People bring to it whatever it is they believe. So we have this really dynamic community here that does that. You'd be so welcome to join us. And you access that through the membership. Or going to school and taking classes, or cooking, or dating. And I'm talking about all these things that are sort of for fun and recreation, but then there's all the things with volunteering. You could work with adopted kids, foster kids. There's so many ways to get involved. And probably I'm going to anticipate that if you've had trouble knowing what you're into, you have a little bit of anxiety about getting involved in something, like maybe you'll feel stuck. I think that's common. I don't know if that's true for you, but there's a way that you can try things out just in little bits and just keep noticing, where does the joy come up for you? The question you're really looking for is, where do you start getting feedback that you made a difference in people's lives? And it sounds like your life doesn't have that right now. And I'm telling you, Kathy, nobody's happy until they find that thing. It's not always the job we do for money, but we all have some kind of a gift that we can use that benefits other people. And we cast about for what that is, first of all, by, what evidence is there that I have been useful to people? And that's evidenced by, they tell you, when you did this thing, it really helped me. So I talk a lot about that. That's something that really changed my life when I did some work to find out what my gifts were. And the first piece of information I had was that when I tell my story, it has a positive effect on people. And I was like, well, I guess I should find a way to do that. So I thought it would be a blog. It grew into these videos. So I'm telling my story. And all these people come and watch, and that's how, and it just gives me tremendous joy because I'm doing the thing that I do. I'm doing the unique Anna thing. There's a Kathy thing for you. Whatever that is, it could be a lot of different things. It's not all artistic or saving the children. There's so many ways that people do it. They do it by creating order. They do it by creating beauty. They do it by creating a safe space for other people or a relaxing space for other people. You can find your right place and the thing that gives you joy and brings purpose to your life through experimentation, one little step at a time. The first step is you just commit. I'm going to do one thing towards this. And we all have to start where we are and just go, I don't know, it might be something like this. And just be willing to take 100 steps in 100 days and let most of them be kind of false starts or no, not that. But one thing leads to another. So you end up going and checking out this one thing, and then you meet somebody who says, I know of this opportunity to do this, and you do that, and through that you meet this other thing. And next thing you know, you're finding your feet, you're finding your joy, and you're finding friends, which is a very nice thing to have. 2 or 3 friends in life is such a positive thing to have. People who, like the friend who died that you had, where you could tell them everything. It's not too late, and it's not too late to find love, Kathy. So persevere, please persevere and support yourself to be able to persevere by being able to deal with the fearful and resentful thoughts that come up. That's why we do the daily practice, because when we start putting our neck out there and living life, stuff comes up, it starts to get emotional. We feel discouraged, we want to withdraw. And the daily practice is a way to just keep moving that out, just getting it out of your head onto the paper, and then, you carry on. You just carry on. It's so much easier when there's somewhere for that to go. So with that, I will leave you with this suggestion. If anybody relates to this, I have a video. If you have trouble feeling connected in relationships, like so many of us do, I have a video about 20 signs that trauma has affected your relationships. I've got that right here, and I will see you very soon.